أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر
السلام عليكم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح وسلم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وسبحان الله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وعلى أصحاب محمد. The human being is created in a state of need. From the moment that the human is in its mother's womb, it doesn't witness, it doesn't experience any separation from its mother. It can't perceive any separation. It is one with its mother, it's one with its environment, and when the human being exits the womb, it still views itself as one with its environment. And then pain sets in, the realization of separation sets in, and the environment begins to form the human being, and form the consciousness of the human being, and direct the human being. This creates influence. This creates a delusion of separateness. One that's reinforced by culture, that we are a separate entity from the things that surround us, the people that surround us, the culture that surrounds us. We forget on a daily basis how we're formed by our friends, how we're formed by the movies that we watch, how we're formed by 1,000 different forces that we remain unaware of, unless we make a decision to become aware of it. Allah talks about this in the Quran, that we are born in a state of need, and that we are in need of a criterion, that we are in need of a furqan, of a delineation between right and wrong. But so often in our society, we are fed this delusion of independence. We're fed this delusion that we are a non-contingent being. And we think that we have rational faculties. We think that we are going along life and making decisions based on our own brain, rather than the influences that surround us. What I want to talk about today is this need, this state of need and the state of what forms us, so that inshallah we can begin to make more conscious decisions around what we are and who we become. Independence and the lone self is a myth wearing the false garb of reason and rationality. You do not think for yourself except by effort along a path. You do not change yourself except by action. Your best thinking will get you the same results because of habit and fear. And fear, at least in my life, has proven to be the corrosive thread that runs through all elements, that shapes all elements of what I do. Because I'm a human being who is created in a state of need. The other side of needing, the other side of needing my mother's love, of needing sustenance, is that I will fear losing it. It is inescapable that fear is going to run my life. What this looked like for Muslims 1400 years ago, or for people, is very different than what it looks like now. The human being changes and is shaped by what they fear. But we were given the Quran, in my opinion, as ultimately an intervention to inform us of this reality. And that unless we truly take this fear and place it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will be lost. We'll be like cattle. Not by our own thinking, not by our jobs, not by our friends. We will be like a leaf blowing in the wind unless we truly strive continuously to fear Allah. But what does fearing Allah mean? Because I can have an idea of what fearing Allah means in a very performative, superficial way. I can say it. I can pray 5 times a day. I can perform the rituals. But if the other 98% of my day is governed by the fear of losing a job, of not making enough money, of losing friendships, of being alone, of death, that becomes my idol. That becomes the center at which I revolve around. In reality, I don't think that we're that different from that child who, upon entering the world, begins to experience pain and experience separation and begins to fear the loss of that sustenance, the loss of the comfort of their mother. Human beings are creatures of association, and so we begin to associate the loss of a mother's warmth with other things in the world. First, it's friends, it's toys, different forms of comfort, until this child grows into an adult and they fear not making a certain amount of money, they fear not having job security, they fear the opinions of others, they fear a certain thing, a certain way that another person might say something that just reminds them of a feeling from they don't remember when. Today we're all familiar with terms like triggers and trauma. And we're painfully unaware of how these things run our life, of how they steer us. And if it were not for the intervention of the Quran, the intervention from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which repeatedly tries to remind us that it's not just happenstance, it's not just fear that is guiding us, but that there is something else, something intelligent, something conscious, and something intentional that is trying to manipulate this nature of being a human being to steer us, to control us, to usurp the power of decision, of freedom of thinking, of freedom of will, to make us forget God, to steer us and guarantee that we go into loss. Shaitan. Both the shaitan within and without, if the difference is even a real difference. So what are we to do about this? What are we to do about the nature of being human? About the nature of living in fear, of being governed by fear? Well, there are multiple approaches. The most common one, which I don't think is unique to the contemporary era, is to pretend that we don't have fear. The most common one is to organize life organize the people around us to make us forget that we're fearful. We bring people close that make us feel good. We pick up habits that make us feel good. In the Quran it talks about we covered ourselves. We adorn ourselves literally, but it's a metaphor for adorning yourself and covering yourself with things that make you forget the state that you're in, which is fearful, which is in need. The delusion is that this brings me power, that somehow this will allow me to wrest satisfaction and wrest outcomes from life by my own will. That I can somehow organize life in a way to forget this need and get more of the outcomes that allow me to forget that I am a human being, I am a contingent and beautiful creation. But I'm not incontingent. I am not infinite. I am affected and influenced by the people and the environment around me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran repeatedly, one of the main thrusts is that your power does not lie in that delusion, that your society, the people around you, those who attribute the lie to the message will try to convince you that your power is in forgetting that, is in forgetting your state, and forgetting it by prestige, forgetting it by money, forgetting it by lust, forgetting it by tribal affiliations, forgetting it by belonging with the people who seem most powerful, who seem to have life figured out. Constructing institutions of delusion that allow you to gain a sense of security. And we're given examples of past people over and over again who took confidence in this delusion until something came easily and wiped them out. Not just something coincidental, but something that they created through their pursuit of delusion. Through the shaky grounds which they decided to build their structure, to build their abode that keeps them safe. That this pursuit, although the advanced network that makes you think this is what is making you safe, convinces you that you're safe, you're actually building your own destruction. And that this is something unique to the human being. Other animals don't do this. In Surah Furqan, verse 43, it says, "Have you considered the human who makes their own desires their deity?" And then later it says, "Do you think most of them listen to the message and use their reason? No, they are but like cattle. No, they are even less conscious of the right way." When I read this, there are two parts of me. There is one, which I think all of us are familiar with, that thinks of all the other people that are like that, that fit that description. But the second part, the honest part, is that that's me. That's all of us. Because that is the nature of being human. Unless I continuously strive and struggle to interrupt that. Through prayer, yes. Through fasting, yes. But also through understanding that if I am cattle, surrounded by other cattle, I am going to be cattle. I am in a state of need. Also in that surah, in Surah Furqan, it describes two sources of water. Sweet water, and that can hydrate you, and salty water, which does the opposite. And I don't think that this is any coincidence. When you take the surah as a whole, it is communicating to you that there is something that is right and there is something that is wrong. And the challenge is that that's something that is wrong, unless you intervene and begin the journey of trying to not be cattle, it will seem like the something that is right. Unless you have a clear criterion that necessitates the revelation and necessitates God's intervention to guide the human being, you will be lost, because you will not be able to tell the difference between the two waters. In the second khutbah, I'll talk more about what I believe is a solution to this. Ask Allah for forgiveness. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa subhanallah al-Ali al-Azim walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa ala ashab Muhammad. I don't think that we are just animals in need. I think the special thing, the beautiful thing about being human is that we are given a choice. But it is not the kind of choice when I'm sitting down and a family member asks me, what do I want for dinner? And I pick one or the other, and then that's it. It's a choice I make every minute of every day, through my action, through my decisions, through my words. The other side of this coin, of being a creature that is influenced by my surroundings, and also being a creature that is influenced by my surroundings, but being a creature that is influenced by my surroundings, that is given the breath of the divine, that has a fraction of the infinite within it, is that I am extremely powerful. My ability to influence the environment around me is equal, if not more, to my ability to be influenced. And this is the other part of the delusion. The delusion that I'm kept safe also comes with the delusion that I don't have any power, that I am just a leaf blowing in the wind, and there's nothing that I can do. In the stories of Fir'aun, the people who follow Fir'aun are criticized not for contributing to their own oppression. And when you read that, the first time that I read that, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone want to be oppressed? And I still can't answer that, but when I look around, when I actually look at myself and take inventory of my fears and make an attempt to understand what is Cherif, I, in all honesty, see that there are many places where I'm convinced that life is just the way it is, and that there's nothing that I can do. I convince myself into an action. I convince myself that this thing is just too big, whatever that thing is. And that's usually what keeps me in wrongdoing. Not usually, if I'm being honest, every single time, that is what keeps me in wrongdoing. I don't make an affirmative decision to do wrong. I just convince myself that doing right is pointless, is futile. But the truth is that I have a lot of power. The truth is that when I'm kind to people that love me, the people that look up to me, the impact that I have on their life is gigantic. So much so that it's as if the entire human project relies on me. If I approach this from my quantitative brain, I can't grasp that. But there are moments in life when you feel it. There are moments in prayer where I know everyone has felt this, where you have this honest, piercing truth that what I do matters. That it matters that I go and I love my family. That it matters that I go and I love the person who is struggling. That it matters that I forget why I'm angry, forget why I was wronged, and I turn the wing of mercy to the person that I've convinced myself doesn't deserve it. We live in an era where Mecca and Medina and Jerusalem are not just no longer under our control, but they're under the control of kufr. I'm not talking about labels of Jewish, Christian, Muslim. I'm talking about the nature of what is ignorance, of what is governing and making decisions for those places. And they're not just places. Because like I talked about, human beings are created in a state of need. They need to be influenced with the sweet, hydrating water. Allah is truly the greatest parent because we were given the revelation as sustenance. And we were given sacred spaces as sustenance. And when I see a sense of apathy, of defeat when it comes to these sacred spaces, what I really see is a human being that is completely disconnected from its truth. Completely disconnected from the truth that they are a contingent body that needs sustenance. Like a person forgetting to eat. Or a person forgetting to take care of themselves. Because this happens quite often. And usually as a byproduct of disease. We are in need of these sacred spaces. And we are in need of good companionship. So, what I think is the beginning of a solution to this is to realize that this need is fulfilled by providing that need for someone else. And this isn't just from my own mind. I think that there is a reason why the Quran always says, except those who feed the orphan, except those who take care of the traveler, except those who do this for the other person. People in extreme examples of disempowerment who are truly in need. But that sentiment, that spirit should exist through everything. Because I am sure today you will encounter someone who is lonely. I'm sure today you will encounter someone who needs companionship. I'm sure that today you will encounter someone who is making the right decision, who is doing the brave thing, and because they are doing the brave thing, they are feeling more alone. Not only do they need you, but you need them. Because by providing for them, you become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the power of being human, is I can truly change another human being's life just with my words, just with my presence. And when you have an ummah, when you have a body that day by day is introducing more health to other parts of the body, it will change. I have faith it will change. I don't think that we are in need of any more self-righteousness when we are facing the problems that we're facing as an ummah, as a family. What we need is more compassion. What we need is more consideration of what I can do for you, rather than how are you falling short in doing for me. Maybe inshallah that will begin to, or not begin to, but maybe inshallah that will let in more light. Allah, make us instruments of your will, of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us bring love. Where we have been injured, let us forgive. Where there is doubt, let us bring faith. Where there is despair, let us bring hope. Where there is darkness, let us bring light. Where there is sadness, let us bring joy. Ya Allah, grant that we seek to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. Help us to forget our desires so we may worship you. Help us to forgive so we are forgiven. Help us to die to our fears and awaken to the truth and embrace your way of life. Guide us to what is best and let us not trade this life for the one to come. Allah, guide us to prefer your justice over our own. Allah, guide us to our dignity and our power, not the power within lies, but the power of patience, the power of humility, and the power of abandonment of the whispers of shaitan that has convinced us that the grazings of cattle is your Islam. Aqima as-salah.